You're going to be a teacher. You're not going to ask anybody for anything. You're just going to teach. You're going to lead with a servant's heart and educate people. And
if you're a real estate investor and are wondering how to raise and leverage private money to make more profit on every deal, then you're in the right place. On Raising Private Money, we'll speak with new and seasoned investors to dissect their deals and extract the best tips and strategies to help you get the money, because the money comes first. Now here's your host, Jay Conner.
Hold on to your seats, Power Your Profit Nation, because today's guest is all about flipping your script on funding forever. My guest is a Southern gentleman who told the bank, bless your heart, then built a 7-figure empire without them. Back in 2003, Jay Conner was doing real estate the hard way. Big down payments, painful fees, personal guarantees, basically being the bank's puppet. But when the 2008 crash, we all remember that well, the rug was pulled out from under him, and Jay said never again. What did he do? He discovered the sexy world of private money, raised over $2.1 million in just a few months, and created rinse and repeat systems that help him rake in 7 figures year after year while working less than 10 hours a week. Yes, you heard that right. If you ever wanted to crack the code on creative financing, raising capital without begging banks, or build a real estate empire that runs without owning your soul, this episode is the golden ticket. Get ready to meet the man who went from being owned by the bank to owning the game, Jay Conner, the private money authority. Sit back, hold on to your seats, and let's dive in.
Welcome to Power Your Profits podcast, your friendly guide in bringing your business revenue to the next level. Listen as host Dr. Susie Carter hears inspiring stories of success from her fellow entrepreneurs and transformational leaders. Prepare to make significant change to your strategies as they unravel the secrets of building multi-million-dollar businesses and the most effective tips on finance, marketing, and sales accountability. If you want to take your first steps towards explosive business growth, this podcast is for you. Without further ado, here is your host, Dr. Susie.
The man, the myth, the legend, Jay.
hello, Dr. Susie Carter. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm great. I love your glasses.
Thank you.
Woo! Wow.
Gotta have fun with it. If I gotta wear them, they gotta be fun. So I cannot be in denial anymore, my friend. I tried it long enough, and I can only make the font so big before you look crazy.
That's right. Well, I have to wear I have to wear like anything that's like from my hand extended backwards, like put it on the floor and I can read it, but up close. So anyway, yes, my glasses are not nearly as much fun as yours.
Well, when I go to dinner, my husband has to borrow mine, so he looks like Elton John when we're out to dinner. He never knows what's going to come out of my purse. He's like, okay.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for inviting me to join the party.
You're welcome. So our client base we have a plethora of entrepreneurs, right? So we've got basically 3 buckets. People who are just starting the entrepreneurship journey, that mid-range between $500,000 to $1 million. And then we have $1 million plus of entrepreneurs. So we've got all kinds of people, lots of real estate investors, lots of entrepreneurs looking for another hustle, right? What can we do? So this as well, it's one of my passions is real estate development. So we've got several properties ourselves. It's always been one of my wealth strategies. So I love, love, love your message, love what you do, love your concept, and excited to chat with you.
Wonderful. Me too.
Okay, good. So I already did your intro before we started. So I'm just going to pick up from there. If that's okay. And it's casual conversation. Whatever comes out of your mouth comes out of your mouth. It's all okay.
I appreciate it. I'm struggling with terrible hip pain, so I'm trying to get comfortable.
Oh, no.
So I don't look weird. Are you video and audio?
Yes, we're video and audio.
So I'll try to get situated here.
Yeah.
Where I don't look weird.
Is it time to get a new one?
I hope not.
Time to cash that one in?
Yeah, I don't think it's bone. I think it's either lower back or something. Anyway, I got 2 MRIs scheduled the end of this week.
Oh, good.
But anyway,
It's the
okay.
pains of getting more mature as we
Yeah,
are
tell me
and
about it. Tell me
sitting
about
on
it.
our booties all day.
Exactly, exactly. All righty. Well, I am sitting on ready.
Okay, so I'm gonna start. So, Jay, thank you so much. I am so excited about this conversation because I think when we get into money and constraints about money, people get scared. They don't like to talk about money. And I always say, wealth is your birthright because I believe there's money all around us. And I love that we're going to talk about how to find it, how to leverage it, how to monetize it, and be creative around it, which is juicy, juicy, juicy. So,
Dr. Susie Carter, I am so excited to be here and so happy you invited me to come along and talk about my most favorite subject I'm so passionate about, that being private money, how to never rely on institutional money for your real estate deals. And the reason I'm so excited is because this strategy of using money like this has had more of an impact on our real estate investing business than anything else that I've employed ever since we started way back in 2003.
yes. So let's rewind the clock. What's the most ridiculous thing you did in the early real estate days that make you cringe now or laugh or cry? Or all the above?
Well, yes, well, pain is normally more memorable.
Amen,
So,
brother. Amen.
yes. And so when you said the word makes me cringe, it reminds me of I'd only been in the business. Well, one thing that makes me cringe is I didn't get a mentor or a coach my
Yeah.
first 6 years. And so that was a big mistake. But one thing, so as an example, one thing in particular, now this was prior to private money days. I didn't know anything about private money when this happened. I was using institutional money, banks, mortgage lenders, etc. And I invested in this beachfront condominium. We live here in Atlantic Beach, Morehead City, North Carolina. So we're right here on the coast. And so I invested it. It was a foreclosure. I bought it at the courthouse steps. And long story short, my plan was to flip it. But things did not go as planned. Of course, things seldom go as planned anyway. So I was not prepared for the unplanned. And so by the time we renovated it and got ready to put it on the market had turned, prices had started coming down. And so I was stubborn and I held on my price and I kept it in the multiple listing service until the bleeding got too painful with the carrying costs to where I just had to put it on the rental market. Well, here's where the big mistake was. I had not calculated what the cash flow would be on this property if I was stuck holding it.
Mm.
It was a bloodbath for a
Yes.
very long time. So here's the lesson. Here's the lesson learned. Of course, my good friend David Meltzer, he says he doesn't believe in failures. He just believes in lessons.
Yes.
So the lesson learned was when you invest in real estate, particularly a single family house or a dwelling, even if you're planning on flipping it and making that big profit right out the gate, you better run your numbers like I didn't. You better run your numbers and calculate, will that property cash flow if you end up holding the property? So regardless of your intended strategy, you got to have a plan B and a plan C.
Amen. Especially with real estate. I mean, in business in general, but real estate. Ooh, I lost my hiney like you lost your hiney many a times, but I've also made millions many a time. So it is a great strategy. And I agree with you, Jay, finding the right mentor. We don't coach on that in our business. You coach on that, right? We just do it as a way to build our wealth, in our family. So you were once owned by the bank until 2008. What did it really feel like to get cut off? Because to be honest, right, there are any cuss words in cursive that day.
My word. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was actually in January of 2009 when everything changed for me and my wife, Carol Joy, in our business. You see, we started investing in single family houses in 2003. And from 2003 until 2009, January of 2009, all I knew to do was go to the local bank, get on my hands and knees when I needed a deal funded, and say, please fund my deal. And
Right.
the banker would make me pull up my skirt and look at my personal assets and pull my credit score and financial statements and all that. Well, that worked out okay, not great, but okay for the first 6 years. And then in January of 2009, I was sitting right here at this desk. I had 2 houses under contract to purchase. And I called up my banker, whose name was Steve, and he was with BB&T at the time. It's no longer BB&T, Truist now. But anyway, so I called him up, and Steve and I had done a bunch of deals for 6 years. Always made my payments on time, etc. So anyway, I called up Steve. I told him about the 2 deals. And then he says, well, Jay, I'm sorry to tell you, but the bank has closed your line of credit. I said, what? He said, yeah, we've closed your line of credit. I said, Steve, wait a minute. I got an 800 credit score. I've never been late on payments. I've done a ton of deals with you for 6 years. Why are you telling me you've closed my line of credit? He said, Jay, don't you know there's a global financial crisis going on right now? I said, no, but you just gave me a global financial crisis.
Exactly.
And so I said, I don't have a way to fund these 2 deals. So I hung up the phone. So I want to share with you. Might I call you Dr. Susie? I just want to call you Dr.
Yes,
Susie.
please.
Dr. Susie, I love it. So one of my mentors is Dr. Gina. Anyway, so Dr. Susie, I hung up the phone. I want to share with you and your audience a very powerful question that I asked myself when that happened. And by the way, if you're an entrepreneur or you're getting ready to be an entrepreneur, that is going to happen to you many times in your career, the unexpected. So I sat here and I asked myself this question. And I want to tell you this question, I don't care where you are in your entrepreneurial journey, this question will help fix any problem you've got. And by the way, these people running around saying every problem's an opportunity, I want to throw up. I want to be like the red Kool-Aid guy running into a brick wall. I didn't have an opportunity, for goodness sakes, I had a problem.
Yes.
Now, did the problem become an opportunity? Absolutely. But at the moment in time, it's a ridiculous problem. So here's the question I asked myself. I said, Jay, who do you know that can help fix your problem? Very simple question.
Yeah.
And that question, I don't care if you've got a health challenge, career, financial, relationship, whatever the problem is, that's a great question to ask yourself. Who do I know that can help me with my problem? When I ask myself that question, it's like the fireworks went off in my brain.
Yeah.
And because the power is in asking the right questions. And I immediately thought of a dear friend of mine and Carol Joy's. His name is Jeff Blankenship. He was living in Greensboro, North Carolina at the time, investing in single-family houses. We known each other through a cappella gospel singing events and stuff. And in fact, still do. Anyway, I called up Jeff. I told him the story. Here's exactly what Jeff said to me. He says, well, Jay, welcome to the club. I said, what club are you talking about? He said, the club of having the bank close your line of credit. My bank closed my line of credit last week. So I think I'm talking to the wrong dude.
Right.
I said, well, Jeff, how are you going to fund your deals? He said, well, have you ever heard of private money? I said, no. He said, well, have you ever heard of self-directed IRAs? How individuals can use their retirement funds to loan to us real estate investors and earn the interest either tax deferred or tax free. I said, Jeff, you are talking over my head. I don't know if I have a clue what you're talking about. I said, well, how do I learn about it? He said, well, there's this gentleman down in Jacksonville, Florida, by the name of Ron LeGrand that can teach us about private money. I said, well, what is private money? He said, Jay, I don't know, but Ron says we can get a lot of it for our real estate deals.
Let's go.
I said, okay. I said, okay. So we went. I went to my very first Ron LeGrand and real estate investing seminar to learn about private money. And Ron changed my life. Ron changed my life. I learned about private money, and I learned, and this was my own twist to it, I learned how to raise millions and millions of dollars. And by the way, if you're just starting out, you don't need millions and millions of dollars. But I learned how to raise millions and millions of dollars without ever asking for money and without ever pitching a deal to a lender.
Okay, that just sounds too good to be true.
Sounds too good to be true. And in fact, I'm doing a Zoom training this coming Thursday night on exactly how to do that, how to raise private money without ever asking for money. And so within less than 90 days, I was able to attract a little over $2 million in new funding that I didn't have. And since that time, Dr. Susie, I have never had to borrow institutional money or go to a bank or provide an appraisal or show financial statements or have my credit score pulled. None of that. And I'll give you I'm going to come up for air and give you a chance back to you for a moment, Dr. Susie. But I'll be glad to share exactly what I did and what I still do today to raise all this money without ever asking.
Let's talk about it. You
All
keep
right.
going. Let's talk about it. Because most people, when they hear private money, and we've all heard the saying, OPM, go use other people's money. And you're like, I would love to use other people's money. How do I use other people's money? Right. And very similar to you, right? We would go to banks and we were heavily over leveraged in 2008 when everybody else was. And so we lost our ass. We lost about 10 million in assets, right? Because everything just flipped on its side. And then from there, we just went, if I can't pay cash, I'm not buying it. So let's talk about private money without getting intimidated. And
Yes.
we are all ears, my
All right,
friend.
here we go. So first of all, let me talk about what private money is not. So
Perfect.
a lot of times, particularly in today's market, when someone hears private money, they associate it with hard money. They think private money and hard money is synonymous. And the reason for that is you got a lot of hard money lenders out there today calling themselves private money lenders. So a hard money lender is typically a broker. It's still institutional money.
Yeah.
But a hard money lender is typically a broker that has gone out and raised private money for their fund for those individuals to get a nice rate of return. And then the hard money lender turns around and loans it out to us real estate investors, charges points, origination fees, etc., and jacks up the interest rate. So, with the hard money today, you're going to be looking at 12 to 14%, right? And origination fees. I'm not talking about, that's not this world. By the way, I'm not poo-pooing hard money. Some of my best friends are hard money lenders. They just happen to use my techniques to go raise private money for their fund to turn around and loan out to real estate investors. It's all the same money. So that's what it's not. So to be clear, a private money lender is an individual, a human being just like you and me, that loans money to us real estate investors, either from their investment capital and or their retirement funds, as I alluded to earlier. So how in the world did I go about getting all this money and still to today? Well, people ask me all the time, Dr. Susie, what's the first thing you got to do, Jay, to raise private money without asking for it? I can tell you the first thing to do. Own the real estate between your ears. Is the first thing to do. Now, let me be specific about what I mean by that. You see, the traditional way to borrow money is you go to the lender and they make the rules. That's the traditional way. The lender sets the interest rate. They set the fees. It's because of the old mindset that says he who has the cash rules. That's not the case in this world. So what we want to do is shift our thinking 180 degrees. Instead of asking for a mortgage or applying for a mortgage, you're offering a mortgage. You're offering an opportunity. You see, I've got 47 private lenders right now funding our deals. Now, you don't need 47 private lenders. You just need one or two to get started. I've got 47 private lenders funding our deals. And here's what's interesting, Dr. Susie. Not one of my private lenders ever heard about private money or private lending or self-directed IRAs until I did this. I put on my teacher hat, and my teacher hat says private money teacher. So I take on the persona. Well, it's really not a persona. I love teaching. I love sharing. I love telling people about ways that they can earn high rates of return safely and securely in ways they never thought about. So I just went about, first of all, having the right mindset. I'm going to teach people that have never heard about this world of opportunity what private money is and how they can get high rates of return safely and securely. So how did I go about doing that? Well, first of all, I had to put my program together. So that's
Yeah.
step number 2. Step number 1, right mindset. You're going to be a teacher. You're not going to ask anybody for anything. You're just going to teach. You're going to lead with a servant's heart and educate people. And here's a very, very important part of the formula. Without ever bringing up a deal for them to fund while you're teaching. You see, that's a big mistake that real estate investors make. They'll go to use private money, and in the same conversation, they got a deal over here. Here's a writer that they need funded. Here's a writer downer. Desperation has a smell to it.
Yes, it don't smell good on anybody.
No, desperation stinks. And if you're sharing your program, your opportunity with people, and you're teaching them, and you're talking about a deal you need funded at the same time, you're already sounding desperate. So here's secret sauce, secret sauce. Separate the conversations of teaching the opportunity and the program that you offer, and then having a deal for them to fund. So how did I go about teaching? Well, all kinds of methods. I like to simultaneously attract private money while I'm just going about my regular daily life anyway. So, you know, one of my first private lender, in fact, my first private lender, his name is Wayne. It was on Wednesday night at Bible study, 7:30 at night at Bible study here in Morehead City. I went there to the foyer. We walked in, my wife, Carol Joy, and I was looking for Wayne. He and I had known each other for a while. I walked up to Wayne and I said, Wayne, I said, I got something I want to talk to you about confidentially after Bible study. If you're going to have a few minutes. He said, sure. So we got together after Bible study, walked down to the nursery, closed the door. Here's exactly what I said to Wayne. So this is just one of the techniques of attracting private money without asking for money. So we shut the door, and here's exactly what I said to Wayne. I said, Wayne, you know everybody in this town. And he did. He's passed away now. But he was, in addition to the church, he was plugged into the Rotary Club. He was the Zenith television dealer of Morehead City, North Carolina. And if you don't know who the Zenith television dealer was, that means you're too young to remember life before Walmart came to town. He'd put a TV in everybody's house. Anyway, I said, Wayne, you know everybody. And I said, Wayne, I need your help. I said, you see, I've now opened up my real estate investing business by referral only. And I'm now paying insane high rates of return to people that invest with me. When you run across somebody complaining about the volatility of the stock market and not earning hardly any money in the local bank, would you refer them to me and I'll tell them about my program that I have? He said, well, now, Brother Jay, what you got going on there? And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, what kind of rate are you paying? I said, are you saying you might be interested? He said, well, I might be interested. I said, why? He said, because we're hardly earning any money in the local CDs and we're losing our butt in the stock market. He said, what kind of rate are you paying? I said, well, Wayne, that sort of depends on the deal, but what sounds high to you? He said, well, we're only earning 3%, and that's what it was in 2009 in the local bank. He said, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6%. I said, Wayne, I can't pay you 5 or 6%. But I can pay you 8%. He said, put me down for $250,000. So I went to him and his wife's home the following afternoon, and I taught him, back to my teacher hat, I taught him the entire program I'd put together, bringing no deals to the conversation. I just talked about the interest rate, how they can get their money back in case of an emergency, the maximum loan to after repaired value, etc. After 2 cups of coffee, that $250,000 became $500,000. Again, still no deal attached to it. So I was already at Bible study.
Right.
And look, let's unpack what happened. I didn't ask Wayne for any money.
Right.
I didn't pitch a deal. I asked for his help to spread the word. And boy, did he ever spread the word. And so how else did I go about raising the money? Well, I put on a private lender luncheon, invited about 20 people that I have connections with, and my CPA and my realtor, my credibility team, and at that one luncheon, I raised $969,000 in pledges with no deals attached. So let me finish this part, Dr. Susie. I'll turn it back to you. So let me unpack this. Teach, teach the program. By the way, I say just duplicate mine. It seems to work pretty good. No
I
deals
think
attached.
so.
Hmm?
I think so.
That's right. Now, Dr. Susie, let's play a little game. Let's pretend. So here I'm going to share the exact script right now. I'm going to share the exact script of exactly what to say to one of your new private lenders. So you've already taught them. They love the program, and they're waiting for what I call the good news phone call. Because let's play this game, Dr. Susie. Let's pretend that you and I have known each other, for whatever way, and I've taught you the program. You love the program, and let's hypothetically pretend that you had $150,000 in a previous 401k at an employer that you used to be with, and it's still there, and you're not happy with it, and whatever. And so I've introduced you to a self-directed IRA company that I recommend. And let's assume you have moved that $150,000 from your old 401k over to the self-directed IRA company, and you're waiting for the good news phone call. That normally takes about 2 weeks for someone to move their funds over to a self-directed IRA company, and it's called getting your account funded. So you've been sitting by the phone waiting, and I pick up the phone and I call you. Here's the script. Here is the script to the good news phone call. I dial up, Dr. Susie answers the phone, and I say, Dr. Susie, I have got great news for you. I can now put your money to work. I've got a house under contract to purchase in Newport with an after-repaired value of $200,000. Now, the funding required for the deal is $150,000, which matches up to what you have available in your self-directed IRA. Closing is going to be and is scheduled for next Tuesday, so you'll need to have your funds wired to my real estate attorney's trust account by next Monday. I'm going to have my real estate attorney email you the wiring instructions. That's the end of the script. That's the end of the conversation. The most stupid thing I could have asked Dr. Susie is, do you want to fund the deal? Of course she wants to fund the deal. And here's why Dr. Susie wants to fund this deal. Number one, she has trusted me. And number one, she loves the program. She already knows what the deal is. She's trusted me to introduce her to the self-directed IRA company that I recommend. She's moved her funds over, and she's not making any money until I put her money to work. And secondly, she knows I'm not going to bring a deal for her to fund unless it matches the criteria of the program that I already taught her. So she's been waiting by the phone for the good news phone call. It's all about managing expectations, teaching first, and then calling with the good news phone call, and everybody is ecstatically happy.
Yes. So you've automated this process, right? You say you work less than 10 hours a week. So spill the tea. What does your lazy genius schedule actually look like?
You know what's funny about that, Dr. Susie? I didn't even know what spill the tea meant until one of my nieces explained it to me last year. For goodness sake. So I know what spilling the tea means, and I know how to spill the tea. So
You're listening to another episode of Power Your Profits podcast. We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors. Overwhelmed by the complexity of business profit strategies? Jump aboard the Bullet Train to Big Profits course, a streamlined solution by Dr. Susie Carter. This course is designed to uncomplicate the path to profitability. Imagine being able to identify and execute profit strategies with ease, skyrocketing your revenues. Visit course.poweryourprofits.com and sign up for the Bullet Train to Big Profits course today. Are you tired of struggling to take your business to the next level? Power Your Profits is the game-changing book you've been waiting for. Dr. Susie Carter, creator of the Predictable Success Method, reveals her proven strategies for explosive growth. From daily operations to marketing systems, this comprehensive guide empowers you to achieve predictable revenue and profit growth. Don't miss out on this invaluable wisdom. Transform your business today. Find your copy at books.poweryourprofits.com.
You know, I get a different kind of question a lot of times too, Dr. Susie, which is the same question. Well, Jay, if you've automated this process and you're working in the business less than 10 hours a week, actually, truth be told, less than 5 hours, what do you do? What do you do? Right? I can tell you what I do. I remember after being in this business for 7 years, so 1 year after the private money started, I came into mine and Carol Joy's kitchen at night, coming down the hallway. I turned into the kitchen. It was about 10 o'clock at night, and there sat my Carol Joy at the kitchen table with stacks of bills up to here and tears coming down her face. And I said, babe, what in the world is wrong? What's the problem? And she said, I can't take it anymore. I can't handle this anymore. And I made a promise right there and then, Dr. Susie, that I was going to set out to dictate, delegate, and disappear in this business as much as I could and never find my Carol Joy stressed out, paying the bills at 10 o'clock at night. And there's a big lesson from that. And that is, you can be making millions, and we were, and we still do today, thank God. But if you're not enjoying the journey, I mean, after all, why do we want to become an entrepreneur? Why do we want to be a real estate investor or be in business for ourselves for any reason? Because, first of all, we don't want to replace a job with another job that we just, I mean, we want the wealth, we want the freedom, but bigger than that, what does the wealth allow us to do in serving other people? So anyway, I set out to automate the business, and I did. I started working with virtual assistants, which is a big part of our business. We only have 3 full-time employees on W-2, my personal assistant, our office manager, and my full-time acquisitionist who works out of her home. She negotiates with all the sellers and et cetera. So what do? Well, I say just do what you enjoy and outsource the rest. So what do I enjoy doing? Well, I love it. I enjoy testing different marketing methods of finding off-market motivated sellers of properties. So I'm all the time testing new methods. In fact, I had a Zoom meeting this morning for about 45 minutes with a new vendor on a new direct mail program that I want to try. So I love testing new marketing methods. We don't buy anything in the multiple listing service because there's no deals in the multiple listing. I haven't bought anything in the multiple listing service since before COVID. So everything we buy is off market. So testing marketing methods. And the reason I'm able to automate the business so much is because our CRM, I mean, I was a mess, Dr. Susie. For years, I ran this business off of Post-it notes and a yellow pad. It was horrible. The most disorganized mess you've ever seen in your life.
That's why Carol Joy's crying at the table.
Exactly. And so a big part of our automation is the CRM software that keeps up with all of our deals and pipelines. And Kim, my acquisitionist, has been with me for 19 years, and we never talk. All the notes are in the CRM. She's doing all the talking with the sellers. And so I decide what offer I want to make. I decide which houses I want the team to go look at. Dr. Susie, I ain't looked in a house since my last live event. I went out and we looked at some houses on the bus tour that I had going on that I hadn't even been in myself. The team was making it happen. So through the CRM, I make offers. So what do? I decide how much I want to make an offer on, right? My acquisitionist communicates that to the seller of the property. So what do? I make decisions. That's all I do. I make decisions, test new market methods. And what I actually spend most of my time doing is what I absolutely love. And that is teaching and training other real estate investors how to do this, how to get their private money, how to raise their own private money, how to automate their business, how to run a real estate investing business. And that's back to my teacher. That's back to having my teacher hat on. I just love teaching and being a part of people's transformations, quite frankly.
So what do you say that constitutes a good deal? What has you say yes to one? What does that look like for you? And it doesn't matter the price range, right? Because it's all about the formula.
Sure. It depends on how you're going to buy it. So if you're buying it with private money, which is what I do on most deals, here's the formula. So this is what we call the maximum allowable offer formula when you're paying all cash, whether it's your cash, private money lender's cash, God forbid, institutional money, because they make the rules. Anyway, here's the formula when paying all cash. Now, this is on a single family house. I would take the after repaired value. Now, let's define after repaired value. My definition of after repaired value means this house is completely renovated. Everything's brand new inside. It looks good. It smells brand new. It's ready for Southern Living magazine pictures. Okay, so it's beautiful. So we take the after repaired value. Of course, when I'm looking at a house, it's not in the after repaired value of shape.
Yeah.
Most of them are distressed. So my realtor knows how I'm going to renovate that house. So my realtor pulls sold comps of other houses in the area that have recently sold that have been totally renovated. So we take the after repaired value, multiply times 70% if the after repaired value is less than $300,000. If the after repaired value is more than $300,000, then we multiply times 80%. That's calculating in my profit. And so the bigger the numbers, I don't need as much of a discount percentage-wise. So after repaired value times 70% if it's less than 300,000 after repaired, times 80% if it's more than 300,000. Then I take that figure and I subtract the estimated repairs or renovation cost. Then that's going to give me a figure. And then if it's less than $300,000 on after repaired value, I'll subtract another $10,000 for Murphy. And you know who Murphy is. Murphy shows up in every house. If something can go wrong, it will go wrong. Sometimes Murphy invites along his cousins and aunts and uncles.
Yeah.
If the after repaired value is over $300,000, I'll subtract an additional $20,000. And then that bottom line figure of that formula is the absolute most that I will pay when paying all cash with private money.
I'm taking notes, y'all. That's why I stopped. I'm just saying. I'm writing as fast as Jay. I get a transcript and I still have to write it because I hear it, I write it, then I can implement it.
There you go.
Let's talk
and
about.
by the way, that formula you will not find on HGTV because, first of all, no disrespect, but the only thing that is about reality TV is that none of it's real reality TV. So
Right.
like on those types of shows, when they run the profit, they'll tell you what they sold it for. They'll tell you what they bought it for. They'll tell you the renovation cost, maybe. And then that's the profit. That is not the profit.
No, that is not the profit.
That is not the profit. There's this thing called realtor fees. There's this thing called carrying costs. There's this thing called private lender interest. There's this thing called closing costs to buy, closing costs to sell, etc. So excuse my diversion.
And that's where that 20 to 30%, right? That's what you're taking in?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Awesome. So let's talk about subject to deals and lease options because they sound sexy and I've done them in the past and they've not as sexy as they sound, right? But they also can be complicated to newbies, which it was for me. So can you break down, like you're explaining it to, you're doing a great job explaining it to the lay person or grandma.
Sure. So back to your first question, which was what's your formula for buying? And my answer was it depends on how you're going to buy. So the
Right.
formula I just went over is only when you're buying cash. Paying with cash, private money or your own cash. When you are buying subject to the existing note or buying on lease purchase, which by the way, I'll explain those briefly, but that's what you call creative financing. Or
Yeah.
if you're buying with seller carryback, which means the seller of the property is going to take back a note. You don't use the maximum allowable offer formula at all for that. Because when you're buying creatively, it all comes down to cash flow. In fact, you can buy a property, a single family house or dwelling, you can buy it at retail. You can pay full price retail or actually more than retail if the projected monthly income is projected to exceed what the monthly debt is. So it all comes down to cash flow. So let me take just a moment to explain what we're talking about here. When you buy a property subject to the existing note, that means the seller of the property has agreed to sell you the property, transfer the title, transfer the deed to your entity, your LLC, your land trust, whatever you're buying in. For goodness sakes, don't buy it in your personal name. That's another show right there. But anyway, they're agreeing, when you buy subject to the existing note, they're agreeing to sell you the property, and they're agreeing to leave the mortgage in their name, and you're agreeing to make the payments and keep them current. That is not an assumption. You are not assuming the note. That means the lender has to approve you. The lender, the original lender here, has got nothing to do with this transaction whatsoever. This is an agreement between you and the seller. And by the way, your real estate attorney doesn't have to make up anything to make this transaction happen. It's already line 203 on the HUD settlement statement. It's called mortgage, subject to existing mortgage. It's right there. And you may ask yourself, who in their right mind would be willing to sell you their house and leave the mortgage in their name? I can tell you who. A motivated seller that needs debt relief. Many reasons: lost a job, going to foreclosure, somebody died, somebody got a divorce. They need debt relief, and they don't have time, and it may have some distress as well on the property. So that's what subject to is. Purchasing on lease purchase, which I don't. I want to own that baby. But you can purchase on lease option, meaning the seller of the property is willing to lease you the property and allow you to sublease it to somebody else by paying them perhaps an option fee, if you will, a small amount. And then you can do what's called a sandwich lease option deal, meaning you've lease optioned it. Now you're going to turn around and sell it on rent to own or lease purchase to somebody else. So those creative ways of buying a house, it all comes down to what's the monthly cash flow. Can you bring in more per month than the underlying debt? And of course, another big part of that is when you sell it on rent to own or lease purchase, you're going to collect a large non-refundable lease option deposit, non-refundable. And I'm talking, don't accept less than 5% of the price that you're going to sell it to someone else. So that's where you'll get really, really big cash flow when you're buying creatively like that. You can use private money in second position, and this is an advanced strategy, so bear with me a second. But if you buy subject to the existing note and there's enough equity in the property, you can borrow private money and in a junior position and use that private money to cash flow it or perhaps do some light repairs and et cetera.
Juicy, 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 juicy. So what do you see? What's one money move that you think most real estate investors, newbies are making and that they overlook, and what would completely change their financial future if they implemented it?
It comes down to private money. The majority of real estate investors do not use private money. They've got in their mind this thing called fear of rejection. And, when people say to me, well, Jay, I don't want to ask people for money. I'm fear of rejection. Well, there's the answer. I answer that question with a question. How can you have any fear of rejection if you're never asking anybody for anything?
Yes, right. So you've cracked the code on private money, automation, freedom. What's your legacy play, and what are you building for all the success that you're creating for you and Carol Joy?
Yes, that's a great question. We have a very, very close affinity and love for a small Christian college, private Christian college down in Florida. It's called Florida College. It's in Temple Terrace, Florida. And the legacy that we're building, actually, I'm not building a legacy for my name because, in 50 or 100 years, nobody's going to know who Jay Conner is anyway. It doesn't matter down the road. I'm building the legacy for God and in service. So that's what we're striving for. And when you just asked that question, Dr. Susie, it triggered a quick little story I want to share, and I'll make it quick.
Yeah.
You get to a point in life to where you probably when you start to quote unquote make it, and you ask yourself, why am I doing all this? Why? 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 Which ties into the legacy question. And I was going down the road with a dear friend of mine a couple of years ago. We were traveling here going around town. And he looked at me, and his name is Neil. And he looked at me, and he said, Jay, I got a question for you. I said, okay. He said, why are you doing everything you do? He said, you don't need to. he says, you could sit at home if you wanted to, but why are you traveling the country? Why are you speaking at all these conferences and working all these hours when you don't have to? And I said, well, I said, Neil, I said, I think I know what you're asking, but ask it a little bit different way. He said, well, how do you reconcile when the Apostle Paul in the Bible says to be content with whatever station of life you're in? How do you reconcile that? He says, really what I'm asking, Jay, is when is enough enough? I said, Neil, I understand your question now. And here's the answer. Enough is never enough when it's not about you.
Amen. Amen to that one, my brother Jay, right? So listen, if we didn't light a fire under your strategy, financial strategy, or at least get your curiosity, will, I don't know what will, because it got my curiosity. I got 2.5 pages of notes from my friend Jay, right? And I've been a savvy real estate investor, still like learning. So Jay just dropped a master class on how to kiss goodbye to the bank and raise millions like a total boss without begging, without stress, without working 80 hours a week. And what I love, if Jay can do it, you can do it, right? And he puts his teacher hat on. So if you're ready to stop playing small, and I know you are, and you're ready to start using other people's money and you just need the how-to, you need my brother Jay. So Jay, how can we get a hold of you? How can we find you so that we can jump on the Jay bandwagon and use other people's money?
I love the J bandwagon. I've been a guest on over 800 shows and nobody's ever talked about the J bandwagon. So you got a first there, Dr. Susie. I love it. So the best way to connect with me is 2 ways. The first way, I would love to give you a gift because you are listening to Dr. Susie's show here, Dr. Susie Carter. And that is my recent best-selling book, Where to Get the Money Now. Subtitle, How and Where to Get Money for All Your Real Estate Deals Without Relying on Hard Money Lenders or Traditional Lenders. And this is not an ebook. This is actually a book. You know, the post office is still in business.
It's a real book.
That's right. And so anyway, don't spend $20 on Amazon. I'd love to autograph the book for you. The book's free, just covers shipping. And you can pick up the book. I'll rush it out to you. 3-day expedited express delivery. Jay Conner, JayConner.com/book, and I'll autograph it, rush it right out. Again, that's, and I'm an ER, not an OR, JayConner.com/book. I'll rush the book. I'm also going to include as an additional gift 2 tickets to my private money conference valued at $3,000.
Hello there. I'm Jay Conner.
That's you going simultaneously because I'm pushing buttons. He told me to go somewhere. I'm a good teacher because I'm a good student. I'm doing exactly what Jay told me to do over here.
But yeah, I'm including with the book 2 free tickets to my upcoming conference, which is called the Private Money Conference, valued at $3,000. I'm going to include those tickets with the book. And finally, come check out my podcast. I'm in my 8th year of my podcast. And the name of the podcast is Raising Private Money. So whatever your favorite platform is. Now, what do I do? Who knows? I might even have Dr. Susie on the show. I'm interviewing people every week. I got 2 shows a week. Monday morning, Thursday morning, I release them. And I'm all the time interviewing other real estate investors that have raised private money, some a few $100,000, some in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And I pick their brain on my show about how they go about raising private money. We have a lot of fun. Come join the party at Raising Private Money with Jay Conner.
Look, and if you aren't on the bandwagon yet, look, this wagon may not be for you. So if you love this conversation, and I know you did, right, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the Power Your Profits podcast, because somebody in your community needs Jay. Somebody needs this conversation. Somebody needs a new insight. And we are serving straight up $1 million strategies every single week. And if you're wondering where you stand in your business, whether you're thriving or just surviving, head over to our free health business assessment. It's fast, it's powerful, it's easy. I'll have all Jay's information in our show notes. Don't sit on this. Don't wait on this. If it's calling your spirit, I always say it's God knocking. That's the dog getting the door. right? I want you to jump. So until next time, keep building your empire. And remember, you weren't born to play small. You were born to be a genius. So let's go. Let's make it happen. Jay, thank you so much for your time, your energy, your knowledge. Cut that head off. There's jewels, my brother. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Susie. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Power Your Profits podcast. Let these building blocks from today's most successful industry leaders equip you with the necessary resources and tools to finally establish the highly profitable business of your dreams. Want to hear more? Listen to more episodes at www.poweryourprofitspodcast.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the show. Now is your time to rise to the top of your game. So be sure to catch our next episode. Until next time.
Are you feeling inspired by the knowledge you gained in this episode? Then head over to jconner.com/moneyguide. That's jconner.com/moneyguide and download your free guide that shares 7 reasons why private money will skyrocket your real estate investing business right now. Again, that's jconner.com/moneyguide to get your free guide. We'll see you next time on Raising Private Money with Jay Conner.